Good evening, good early morning, 1:30 on the 12th of January. It's now Thursday. Jumping all over me is Candy the Wonder Pup, her mandatory half of a treat. You good girl. Shake pop. Shake. 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 Now she won't bug me anymore, probably. Hi, everyone. Again, Gordon Causey. Grow a set on Reddit. Gordy Canuck on Twitter. And wanted to do a video about all the recent adverse health events that have been reported in the last week or so since the incident happened on Monday Night Football with Damar Hamlin. I think that was on January 2nd. So 10 days ago. Everyone knows what happened, I think, to Damar Hamlin. Free safety with the Buffalo Bills. Tackled a wide receiver, took him to the field. The type of hit you see basically pretty much every NFL football game. And he suffered from a cardiac arrest. From what I understand, they actually had to revive him. His heart had completely stopped. Before I really get rolling, just to cover off the community standards stuff, nothing I'm going to say constitutes medical advice. Just talking about events that have happened, my take on them. But again, it's not in no way, shape, or form is this to be construed or taken as medical advice. If you like the video, you're welcome to thumb it up. You can subscribe so that you'll know when I'm doing the next one. And you can also go back and check my previous videos if you see something that strikes your interest. So that Damar Hamlin, that was January 2nd. And in the past week or so, I've just been keeping track of the number of reports coming out about younger people. So, let's start January 10th. It was just reported on January 10th that a young man by the name of Solomon Solo Gardner, a student and a baseball player, he died the previous Sunday. So I guess that would be the 8th in Washington state of all they state is it was a brain injury, but they list no cause. I'm not linking these all up because there's too many. You can look them up if you like. This young man's name was Solomon, nickname Solo Gardner, student baseball player. Then there's January 11th in the Rochester area of New York. Kiona Garrison, a high school junior basketball player. She suffered a stroke. From what I understand, she is recovering. And I pray that everyone who has suffered a severe adverse event and health event and is still alive, I pray they continue to recover. Damar Hamlin is apparently recovering. So that was January 11th. That was reported. January 10th, it was reported that Blaze Jacobs in Cincinnati, a 17-year-old high school student, died of cardiac arrest while at school. Again, on January 10th, a student in Las Vegas, a senior, suffered a cardiac arrest while at school. I forgot to write down his name. That was a male. January 10th, again, January 10th seems to have been a big day. There was a U.S. Air Force cadet and a member of the Air Force football team, young man by the name of Hunter Brown, who died suddenly on his way to class, just 21 years of age. January 7th, it was reported that Christy Cracknell, 31, died just after getting engaged. Date given for her death was December 11th. On January 6th, It was reported here in Canada, 18-year-old Theo Gibbs died suddenly on December the 30th in Regina, Saskatchewan. And he'd been attending college in California where he played on a baseball team, collegiate baseball. January 6th, reported in People magazine, Ashari Hughes died 16 years old, died while playing flag football. A high school student, another one from Las Vegas. This is 2 in Las Vegas, Nevada. Apparently she had chest problems, went to the sidelines and collapsed. Then back on December 14th, the New York Post had reported on a former UCF, which I think is the University of Central Florida, a tight end by the name of Jake Hescock or Hesco, 25, suffered a cardiac arrest and died while jogging the previous Sunday. So that would have been on December 11th. Then we have January 6th. It was reported that firefighter Jordan Darley of Passaic, New Jersey, 40 years of age, his death was reported. He had died on November 22nd. January 3rd, CHCH, which is a media outlet out of Hamilton, Ontario. So on January 3rd, they reported that Liam Coward, something of a social justice warrior, died suddenly New Year's Eve, and all they're saying is a tragic accident, no details. He was a big proponent of the COVID jabs. He had sent out over his social media feeds that anyone declining one brand over another, saying, well, I don't want to wait for this one, that anyone doing that is a piece of garbage, and that you should just take whatever vaccine you're, quote, fucking able to get. Pardon the profanity, but that's what he had put out over social media. January 6th, multiple sources were reporting on an 18-year-old who died suddenly on a basketball court in the Bahamas. Young girl by the name of Brielle McKinney. And if you look that one up, it was an outdoor basketball court, and there's actually video where you can see a body laying on the court covered by a blanket or sheet, and family members or family or friends or bystanders being held back. Rather gut-wrenching to watch that. Canada Today news of January 4, a little girl, a toddler named Adeline, died on December 29th. She just stopped breathing at 7:30 a.m. that morning, staying over with her grandmother. And then People magazine reported on January 2nd that a former member of the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I can't pronounce his name, Uche Nwaneri, UCHE is the first name, Nwaneri, Nwaneri, dead at the young age of 38. And the reporting says that a preliminary autopsy indicates it may have been a heart attack. And that it happened on the previous Friday, so the Friday prior to January 2nd. And this was another gentleman who was a strong proponent of the jabs. He was advocating on his social media feeds that anyone declining the jab should be thrown in jail. And so just going through, in the past 10 or so days, I think I just gave 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and I think most of them sadly passed away. And we saw what happened in the wake of Damar Hamlin and his severe health event that he had on the field Monday Night Football in Cincinnati, Bills playing against the Bengals. And what erupted after that was a lot of suggestions by a lot of people that it could be related to the you-know-whats. And Anthony Fauci, who has retired, from what I understand, he retired sometime in December of 2022. He came out of retirement and did I don't know whether it was ABC, NBC, or CBS. I think it was ABC or CBS, like a current affairs talk show type thing, where he basically came out of retirement to, address concerns over, because a lot of people speculated that could it be related. And so he seems like he was brought out of retirement to come and address that. And I've shared below, that seems to be part and parcel of something the World Health Organization has published to their own website about how to confront what I will just call hesitancy. And they talk about preparing for crises, addressing when and how to communicate. And they break things down into low potential impact, medium potential impact, and high potential impact, and how to respond. I'm going to skip right to a high potential impact. People, examples, deaths following vaccination, cluster of AEFIs, which are adverse events following immunizations, events which involve children, the elderly, pregnant women, or vulnerable groups, the introduction of a new vaccine recall, vaccine suspension, mass vaccination campaign, misleading but powerful story publication, which attracts a lot of negative social media attention. And their advice is respond immediately. Follow the steps outlined in phase 2 crisis response. Specific examples of each category of event are outlined in Annex 1. This strikes me something it's almost as if it's a marketing strategy, how to contingency plans, how to face any situation. Example of classification of key audiences. Who are the audiences? Active influencers, those who directly influence the perceptions or behaviors of the people affected by a crisis. And they could include healthcare workers, local general practitioners, vaccination nurses, local leaders, religious leaders, opinion leaders, local community and family members, community-based organizations, parents and grandparents, teachers, journalists, social media influencers, immunization staff at district level. And then they have passive influencers, academics, influencers, and they map out how to manage situations so that confidence levels in vaccines in general. I believe this paper predates COVID, predates the COVID shots. But it's instructive reading in what we're seeing, and I think we're going to be seeing more of it, given this laundry list of all these adverse events, because individuals are going to question. Because one thing that's never reported on in any of those stories that I just went through, people infer an individual's status as to whether they've had the jabs or not. That young baseball player in Regina, Saskatchewan, who was playing baseball in California. Well, you cannot the United States does not allow you to fly into their country unless you're supposed to be fully vaxxed in order to enter the United States. Novak Djokovic, probably the world's number one tennis player right now, although I don't think he's world number one anymore because he keeps being denied the ability to play in major tournaments like the US Open because he has refused to get the jabs. So they wouldn't let him play in the Australian Open, which he's won 8 or 9 times. They wouldn't let him play in Flushing Meadows in New York City. And so that's affected him in the world rankings and also knocked him down in terms of, he at one time, I think, was tied with Rafael Nadal for the most Grand Slam major titles in tennis. But because he hasn't been able to play in a couple, Australia, where he practically owns the tournament, he wasn't allowed to play in it. But there's so much, I think the degree of hesitancy is going to increase. And again, that's just an editorial comment on my part. I think everyone, if you watch my previous videos, you'll know my own personal situation. I wanted to share something as well. And I'm going to share the audio. This is from 2018 or 19, not sure which. And it's Anthony Fauci addressing or taking part in a panel discussion at something called the Milken, M-I-L-K-E-N, Milken Institute. And the signage on the backdrop says Milken Institute Future of Health Summit. And this is Dr. Anthony Fauci talking about vaccines. So without further ado, here is director or former director of the National Institutes of Health in the United States and top advisor to Presidents Biden and Trump, Dr. Anthony Fauci. Take it away. And I think there's a key word. Oh, darn it. Oh, 986D has said, I don't think it's playing. And that is so annoying because this happened before. And I'm going to see if I can, I'm going to give it another shot by going onto a YouTube channel and seeing if I can find that same video very quick. I type fast. So pardon me, I'll yammer on a bit. Fauci, Milken. This is Future of Health Summit. If I find it. And this is 2019. I think this is the same video. I'm probably going to get an ad to start with, or will I? I'm going to end it there because it doesn't have that video. Still not working. Well, you can type in, you can find it. You can just type in Anthony Fauci and Milken Institute. And again, the video that I'm referencing is the Future of Health Summit. I think it's in 2019. And at the context of that conversation, they were talking about influenza vaccines and about the fact that going back to the 1940s, that they've been growing viruses in eggs since the 1940s, basically. And again, non-expert, but as I understand it, they've been culturing viruses in egg cultures and then using that to put an attenuated or dead version of a virus in the vaccine so that it generates a immune response, so that your body sees that there's an invader, mounts a response, develops antibodies, so that if and when an individual encounters a live version or a wild version of an actual virus, then the body has been primed and it knows how to respond. And they're talking about transitioning away from this tried, tested, and true that's worked very well, according to Fauci. And if we want to move to something better, and the inference is the better is this RNA. But in the interview, or in this panel discussion, he says that, we're looking at a 10-year process. If you're going to do the phase 1s, the phase 2s, the phase 3s, that you're looking at, to quote, he says, you're looking at a decade, 10 years. And because that's standard operating procedure in the pharmaceutical industry, is that preclinical work, animal studies, if those go well, then you go to phase 1, a standalone phase 1 safety trial. That takes months. And then you have to, once it's completed, then those results have to be poured over, they're published. And if the phase 1 trial succeeds, then you take those results and then you design a phase 2 trial, much larger in scope. And you have to submit the trial design to the FDA. The FDA has varying committees. They may make recommendations, changes to the phase 2 study protocol, and then at that point roll out the phase 2. Now, in a phase 2 trial, in a large-scale phase 2 trial, science hasn't figured out a way to speed up time. You're looking at a year minimum. Typically, I would think, non-expert, but check into it, I have. And then after that's done, then you have to, again, pour over those results. And if endpoints, primary and secondary endpoints, are met, certainly you need to meet your primary endpoint, then only then would you design a phase 3 trial, which would be designed to take you to an NDA, which is a new drug application. And that trial, that phase 3 trial, now would have to succeed. And something occurred to me, and it didn't occur to me organically, it didn't come to me on my own. A friend of mine, Sue, on Facebook, she made the point, and I think it's very true. She said parents do more research into the type of cell phone they're going to put into their child's hands than they do when researching substances which are injected into their bodies. Getting back to that interview, and I wish it was able to play. I wish I was able to provide the audio clip. But this talking about the tried, tested, and true egg culturing of viruses, and this platform having been around for, we're looking at 70, 80 years. This is what, as I understand it, this is what MMR, polio, hepatitis, all these jabs that everyone has gotten, they're all based on them. And this mRNA, messenger RNA is completely brand new. And now we're in a situation where Damar Hamlin, these 15, and these are just the ones I pulled off. These are just the ones that made it into the paper. I have two former colleagues who died suddenly in the last year and a bit, and two former colleagues in a profession that required the no jab, no job. That's why I don't work. That's why I no longer work where they used to work, because I wasn't willing to. I'm the target audience. You're someone who's had every jab imaginable. This booklet, there's all. You got a whole laundry list of them: tetanus, diphtheria, polio, measles, mumps, rubella, hepatitis A and B. I didn't have to get the chicken pox because previous immune, says right on it, immune due to previous infection. I had chicken pox when I was a kid. Used to be that prior infection was deemed the best form of vaccination. Fauci said as much on public TV or on network TV. So the best form of vaccination is prior infection. Now that's all changed, and I'm the target audience. You want to convince someone? It's going to be hard because I don't see the level of investigation going into all these adverse events taking place. They won't even report. They won't even tell you the status of the individuals. And it's a bit of a rambling video, but if you look at the link to the article that I've shared below directly from the World Health Organization, we're seeing more and more of these events being reported. And again, that was just a snapshot. There are lots more than that happening. I know of too many myself, personal firsthand. They're not making it into the paper. I remember I've mentioned before, 38 years of age, 6 foot tall, 180 pounds. He's taller and lighter, skinnier than I am. I could stand to lose 10, maybe 15, but I'm not in bad shape. And I'm a 56-year-old smoker. If anyone should be at risk from this thing, I'll end it off with this last little bit. Something that another friend of mine brought up. And another friend who's declined, who said no, and people get, how can you say no? The deadly coronavirus. And so what Jack has proposed to individuals has said, the deadly coronavirus? Well, let me ask you, of all the people who've been identified as having had an infection, a confirmed infection, what percentage of them do you think have passed away, have died? Give me a number. And the answer that he's gotten, and I've done the same thing, and my experience is exactly the same as what Jack told me. When I asked people this question, if you took a look at everyone in Canada who's had a confirmed infection, what percentage of them have died? And I asked people, what do you think the number is? And I'm hit with 5%, 10%, 15%. Sometimes some people think it's 20% and higher. But typically I find that they answer somewhere around 10%. So 7, 8, 11, 12, somewhere in the 10% area. And then invite them to go on, to take their own cell phone, to go on to Health Canada's own website, to look up the total number of cases of COVID identified, confirmed in Canada. And I think we're looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of 4.5 million cases of Canada's 38 million people. About 4.5 million, give or take, have had a confirmed positive test. And then how many of those have died? It's in around 45,000. It's basically 1%. I did the actual math on it up to, I think, January 10th or 11th. And it was 1.09. And 98.9% 99% recovering. So basically, it's fatality rate of 1% versus a 99% recovery rate. So you want me to protect myself from a disease that have in all likelihood better than a 99% chance of recovery, because that case rate and fatality rate, that's called the case fatality rate, that's based on population wide, including 80, 90, and 100 plus year olds. COVID, like just about any virus, non-expert view here, but I don't think it's one size fits all. If you're 85 years of age, suffering from terminal cancer, living out your last days in a palliative nursing home type setting, and you catch COVID, RSV, influenza, gastrointestinal bug, I think your chances of surviving it are very low. Whereas if you're a 20, 30, 40, even 50, 60-year-old in otherwise reasonably good health, your chances of recovery are probably 99 plus. So you can go on to Ontario Health. They publish what they call the infection fatality rate by age, not to be confused with case fatality rate, because while there have been 4.5 million odd cases identified, confirmed through testing in Canada, that's the so-called tip of the iceberg. And most had health issues to go along with it, is being said by 986D. Exactly. In the United States, the CDC published back all the way in August of 2020, they published the fact that 94% of the individuals who were counted as having died, counted in with the COVID deaths, 94% of them had, on average, I think it was 2.6 other causes of death listed on their death certificate. So it might say cause of death: COVID, diabetes, terminal cancer, COVID, terminal cancer, end stage 4 kidney disease. Who knows? That's the problem with trying to take a one size fits all approach to things, is beyond insane. Would you have everyone going, if you send a toddler into a kiddie pool, you might want to put a flotation device on them. Would make sense. But a 9, 10, 12-year-old, would you put a flotation device on that kid going into a kiddie pool? I wouldn't. I mean, anything's possible, but let's be reasonable. Anyway, it's late. I wanted to do this earlier, but going through all these stories, I publish them to my Facebook feed. If you want to follow me on Facebook, I publish them as I come across them. All these young, two kids within the last week or so, high school students in Las Vegas, in one medium-sized American city, good, decent-sized city. I imagine it's 1 million to 2 million people. But 2 high school students in the same city dying in the same week, suddenly for no apparent reason, strikes me as, and again, this is what we're seeing reported. Are there more? Guys I worked with, when they died, the 2 guys I worked with who passed away, didn't make the news. I didn't even see an obituary, but I wasn't looking. Anyway, God bless, and see you later in the week. 986D, thanks. Hopefully my next video will be better. This one wasn't that great. Night all.